Hi, this is Susan. I'm working on some wood and some clay, and this is Halloween or fall. And I made a project like year before last, before I started my channel. And so I wanted to show you a lot of the things that I made so you can make them too. And then I'm going to show you the whole project and I'll show you the house and I made it. And it's kind of a house combination curiosity shop. Okay, so I was making these the other night. These are wood, and just keep in mind when you're cutting the wood, cut on your worst wood that you have now. And I wanted to tell you this. I found this out. If you have wood or you buy it at the craft store, don't buy it when it has these dark lines in it, because that is already cracked. There's already a line through that. You can't see it, but every time I used a piece that they had in a bag, see that crack? That what I was cutting out fell apart. So that's an indication. I don't know anything about wood per se, but that's an indication that it's already got a split in it. You just can't see it. So anyway, I cut some pieces. This is just, it's the craft wood. I got it from Hobby Lobby in packets. And so see how this one's all uneven edge? And when I broke it, that's good. Don't mess that up. Don't, you want to just, carve out your, for a headstone, carve it out so it looks like that it wore away, and then take your sanding tool and curve around, and curve like this is flat on one side and curved on the other. And so then I took it on this side and rounded it, and so I did put a little piece on the bottom, and you want that to be uneven too, so it stays with the unevenness of it all, and that indicates it's worn away over time. And so then I painted some brown, of course, the watered down brown I painted on there first. And then I went in and painted some watered down green so that I could put some little bit of moss. See the little bit that I put over the green? The green looked good on the black down at the bottom, but I went ahead and put just little pieces. And I just hand wrote beloved wife and mother and put a cross. So these are supposed to look like, they're an old house, because all of these, are going to be old houses. So then the next thing you can do, this one I just had it's going to lay, like be laying down, is cut it out. I beveled it with my file all around the edges, because if it sits there, it's going to wear away. And then I went in and I did cuts with my craft knife. So do some cuts and then come back in and fill them in with your different colors of watery wood. Watery paint. Sorry. I was looking at the back. Okay, so this is funny. This split because it was, like I said, the wood split. But look, isn't that great? When it split, it was like, happy accident. Okay, so I put a piece on the bottom that was just a crooked piece that came off of the split wood. And did the same thing with the darkening and then put the greenery on it. But I went ahead and when it came off and split on me, I was like, yay, that looks great. So if you want to split it, then it really looks like it's worn down. And here's the so-called top piece that would have been there and fallen over and worn down on its own. So I had like a little angel drawn out, and I'm just drawing it with my pencil. And then it says baby on it, because, they had a lot of baby graves back then. Now, I want to say I'm not a Halloween, scary. I never watch scary horror movies, never, ever. And very rarely. I've probably seen 10 at the most in my whole life. And so I know some people feel like Halloween is, not a good holiday to celebrate. But, I just call it the fantasy holiday. I'm a Christian and I don't practice anything, to do with Halloween stuff outside of just making up fantasy stuff. So I just want to get that out there, that I know a lot of people feel, real strongly about it, but I feel like it's just a time for us who are crafters and creative people to just expand into another realm of creativity instead of just copying old reproduction of furniture and things, but to actually make something creative. So that's all I'm going to say on that topic. So this one, I actually was naming this cemetery, and I was like, what do I name it? What do I name it? And I thought, oh my gosh, every June, first weekend in June, I had to be at the Liberty Hill Cemetery with my grandmother and my mother to do the whole cemetery association barbecue. And so I thought, oh, of course I got to name it after that. So it says Liberty Hill Cemetery. And I need to darken it a little bit. But this came out of the tree the other day, and it's kind of grayed, so I put green on it. But if you can find mossy stuff in your trees, look down on the ground. It just blew down. And I wish I had a whole bunch more of it. So I'm going to have to go look for it and see if it's maybe in the front yard of my friend's house. But anyway, okay, go crooked on the bottom. Again, would have worn away. Crooked on the top, would have worn away. Dark up here, where water just, where you naturally think it would darken. Lighter where you think. And then this was crooked piece. Don't need it to be straight. And then put it at an angle because, it would come loose and start to do that. So these, I have polymer clay gravestones that are real intricate, and I'm going to show those to you in another video. But I just wanted to show you, these are just the things I've made recently, the last few days, and just wanted to share. Okay, I saw somebody had a perfectly shaped cutting board, and I thought, if a witch that's taken over a haunted house or whatever, they wouldn't have a perfectly formed cutting board. They would have like a piece of wood that was, angle cut and all. And so that's what I did, was just went ahead and cut this at a, odd angles stuff, and beveled the edge with my tool file. And so then I've made this out of clay, and that's that mortar and pestle, but instead I'm going to use it with a bone. So the bones, a cut up skeleton, and like they would stir things and smash things with a bone. And then I put some of the greenery here, and and you want to put the cut marks too. Make sure you put your cut marks on your board and water it down, and then darken it in places and green in places where it's cut up stuff. And then I stuck the skull. And speaking of these little guys, I found these at Dollar Tree. And I wanted to tell you a heads up, things are going up. The price is going up on Dollar Tree. If you go in there, you'll see this sticker. This was originally $125. They put the sticker on it, and they charged me $150. Okay? So I knew I needed batteries. Okay, these batteries, they tried to charge me $150, but they say $125. They didn't put the stickers on these, but they did on other end caps. And so I made the manager come over and give me the $1.25 as advertised. So you want to get over there now, because they're not only stickering things, but they're like this one. Okay, this was a sticker. I asked what was the price. They hadn't logged it in as $1.50 yet, so I got these for $1.25. So I'm trying to grab stuff that I typically use, and I suggest you do it too, because the wood glue, unfortunately, which we use a lot of wood glue, you can see the one I just bought, just a month ago, it's got the sticker. So now I paid $1.50, and they're like trying to charge in that whole aisle of paintbrushes and clamps and all that stuff. And I have a video if you want to see that. That's really good. It has all the good stuff that you can get in that aisle that, a lot of people who don't know to go to that aisle. So I wanted to tell you also, these, let's look at the difference in these, because I took the first one and I just cut it up when I got them last year, or year before last, and I'm just using the bones. But this one's different, and it's subtle, like his collarbones much more large and pronounced. The skull tapers in on the old one, and it looks like an alien on this one. And I tried filing it down to kind of take some of the, whatever they call that, plastic molded together pieces off, but it didn't really help. And the bones are pretty close. The feet don't look the same. These feet look smaller. This looks more like fins. So this was what they carried before. So I know they have them at Hobby Lobby. They have them probably at every dollar store. So you might just look for the one that looks more like a skull and less like an alien, unless you want an alien. So there you go. You got an alien. Dollar Tree, aliens. And yeah, look at that. It's got ribs on its spine. That's kind of cute. Very ribby. And then I painted it because, you know, they aren't really gray color. They're kind of more off-white, you know, beige. This is that color, and you can add white to it. This just goes with, if you don't use this, you really should get this. It's honey brown, because you can add white to it and get the parchment color, or you can use this, and just, it's really good color to add to your browns. Anyway, so get over there. These were 4 in a pack for the $1.50 here in the U.S. with the tariff stuff. And so, you might want to get over there and try to get some things at $1.25, because, you know, you buy 4 things and then that's another $1. So I got like Mod Podge and some paint and black paint, because I'm going to use that. So anyway, so let's get started. Okay, so you saw this one. So we've got the woods all out of the way. So let me set those back here. And I was making my vulture over again. This is my vulture, and he was having trouble with his feet. They didn't get glued up well enough, and so I was trying to add glue, and then I couldn't remember how I made him exactly, so I started making him over again. But I just Google a vulture, and you get the general idea. His beak comes down. He has kind of a long kind of neck with a humpy look on the top of the head, and the humpy here, and the curved under beak, and then you see his wings are like hanging out there like I can fly any minute. And they're kind of big. You know, the vultures are pretty big birds. And then a tail. The tail, you needed to work at positioning him, because if you have him on the top of a building, you know, he needs to be able to stay there and not fall over. So work on your weight ratio as far as your tail position, so that he'll sit up and not topple over. Okay, so let me show you. Here's the one I started, and I'm using the Dove chocolates. And I was reading these. I love Dove chocolates when I'm making videos. It says, what makes you smile? Dove, of course it does. And then this one, chocolate now, stress later. I love that one. That is for sure. Okay, so let's look at the pieces. So I took these. Oh, this one's funny. Sounds like Monday's problem. Isn't that the truth? Don't you put off everything on the weekend, you know, just craft and deal with that on Monday. Okay, so first of the wings. I made these in pieces. So, okay, I've got the wing. It looks like a bow tie. Let's flatten it out. It looks like a bow tie. Just fold around your pieces and try to keep them not, you know, thick, not one side thicker than the other. And then, you know, look at your shaping to see that you got it big enough, you got it the size that you need it. So there's the bow tie piece. Here's the tail piece, which I just folded it all in and kind of curved it, so it's not just a flat tail laying out there. And that will be connected. I made feet by taking a piece that I just rolled in. I rolled it in on each side, and so that's going to be my feet. And then the main thing, look at this one. Small steps can still walk miles. Go at your own pace. That is miniatures. Go at your own pace, and you'll get better and better. Okay, so make a compact ball, And the compact ball is going to be this body. And we've got to come up and pull the head piece from that. So you just want to have this sticking out. Keep rolling more into your ball after you've got your initial compact ball. And then start working to get your beak shape. Twist it out. You might want to put more layers, but all in all, see how it's starting to take form. Here's one. Be extra, be bold, be you. Okay, and then, take this and put this. The head needs to be a little bigger. So just put it on here, and I'm using the dove because it's thin. So I suggest that it might be better to use either cheap foil or the dove or whatever you have this is really moldable stuff. So, and it's yummy. Dark chocolate. Yummy, yummy. So keep working at this. And you can always take pieces off once you get it. Okay, and then, so let's say I still need some, but you see how it's coming along? And I'm going to have to work at this because I've got to make, let's compare it. So I've got to make the beak, come out, the head, and the body. And then I'll glue the feet, I'll glue the tail, and I'll glue the wings. And I've used pins I put wood glue in there. First I put tacky glue, and then I pinned it all, and then I'm coming in with wood glue all over it to fill in all the gaps so that I can paint it. So ultimately I want to cover it with all wood glue. And it might take a few days. This is not going to be one that goes together real quick because it's got to dry. And then you've got to come back in and see, I started filling this in just a little bit ago, and it's still got a gap there. But, it's got to dry a little bit. I did put some on the wing under there, and it's dried. So just look at your picture on Google. And then once you get it to, stay together, then start filling it in with the wood glue, which you can, use your thinnest of wood glue maybe. Not your thick so much, because the thick won't flow out to cover the, I really think there's different times you use a thicker wood glue and a thinner, and doing a relief you use a thinner. So see, it's just coming together, and it's just the foil that you throw in the trash. So it'll end up a little bit smaller. I did want a little bit smaller one. They're just sitting perched up. Okay, and the color-wise, it's a brownish black here. The white feathers into the brownish black part, and up here is brownish black, and then a little bit lighter in the brown for the beak. And then the eyes you couldn't really see the eyes. They're there, but you couldn't really see them in the picture. But you can dot them white if you want to, whatever. But just look up a picture, and you'll get it. And just use a bunch of different pins, to hold it together while it sets up, and then work on something else. And that's what I did. I worked on something else. And so here's the something else. Okay, we always talk about we need mice, and you just can't get them small enough. So I started out, this is my mouse, or rat, from a couple of years ago. So I recreated them. I'm like, oh, no, got to be smaller, but rats are good for putting up in the attic and, big, scary rats. Okay, what I suggest with the, no piece is going to be made the same. Okay, I'm leaning back here looking for my wire. Okay. See this floral wire? It's pretty sturdy. And I'm running a piece of floral wire through the clay. Oh, speaking of, I'm using paper clay here because I needed to use it up. But I much prefer the DOS, the DAS. It's a red package. So if you have the DOS, I much prefer that than the paper clay. I just need to use this paper clay up because it's a couple of years old. And so I would work with the DOS. So run that through, do a ball. his tail was separate, and you're going to work that onto it after you get the body done. Okay, now the thing with these mice is their ears. Their ears go back on them, and they've got a hump right in here, and they have kind of a hump right here. Now, don't ask me how I know this, because I'm certainly not going to look at a rat close up. But I have terriers, Yorkshire Terriers, and they just drop them at your feet. They love to go kill a mouse, and we always play I call them mousy squirrels, so they can go race after them and get exercise. Well, they'll go after the squirrel, but I call them mousy squirrels. So it's kind of rounded there, but their ears taper back into the body. Not stick up like a rabbit's ears. They actually go back. So the tool I'm using is simply this one. And you could even use your needle tool, but so basic. I got these plastic tools off of Temu, and there's like 10, 12, and they're great. And they came with something else, like a piece of acrylic or a roller or something, like a 2-for-1. So look for them, because I'm liking them better than I'm liking the silicone ones I have. So I'm, just rolling. You just roll everything you're making. You wet this, stick it in water as you're working, and roll things into shape. That's all you're doing. And I wish I could do it on camera, but the problem is the paper clay dries so fast. It gets a hard shell on the outside, if you're familiar. And that makes it harder for me to keep rolling and getting shape. Now you could add stuff, but I couldn't even set one up of these without it drying really fast. And especially because it's old. And so I had to put a lot of water into it. But you get the idea. So you start out with just a pinch of like a ball, and then start rolling. Just the most basic tool you have, not too sharp, but roll everything into this shape. So once you get back here, then add, a little bit more of a rope, and then roll it into place. Now, once all this is really dry, you can take a little, file, a little nail file or something, and just smooth these up a little bit before you paint them. Now, I did stick some rats or mice, they're so low to the ground, you don't really need feet on them. Like this one doesn't have feet. And see, I tried a second one smaller, and I really need to be using like my magnifying thing with these. But I was with my friend, I was listening to the movie that he was watching, and so I wasn't using my magnifier or my glasses, and I was just playing with them. Okay, but so you have those ears come back, shape them, into your. I work from the front back or the bottom up. So I just worked from the front back, pushing things back into this hump and getting these shaped out, cut it, shaped out. And then with the wire, I stick the wire into there once I got the front like I wanted it, and then I just covered the wire to get the tail. But once you get the first one done, then it won't be difficult. You just need to get the shape. My ear went flat, so I must have smudged it on something. It kind of, one of them's pushed back. And then just poke some eyes, or put some, make some eyes. So, everybody knows that general shape, and that's what you're going for. Is how it is, it's like how you recognize something. It doesn't have to be perfection, it just needs to be generally close to the shape. Okay, so here I took a bone, and again, the first skeleton I cut up and used all the bones, and I put the crow, the witch's crow, onto the bone. It's just glued on. This is another thing where you want to work the tail, and you can do this in 3 pieces, and I put wire into this, so I just curve the wire. Gosh, where did my wire go? Again. Oh, here it is. It fell in my lap. Okay, just take off a piece and just take your bend this, like bend it, at an angle, like about that much of an angle. And let's see, we'll cut it. And you can either put the clay around it, or you can feed it into it. But that way, see, this will go up into the head a little bit and make sure your head doesn't fall off, and then into the tail a little bit, but not all the way out because you don't want the tail to thicken. So I tried making this separately, and then I tried making it together. Now this one, it's not bent quite as much. So you can choose if you want it. Like this one's looking up, a little bit upward. Because it depends on where you're going to put it. And then I made a piece of wood. And this is this tool. This is the greatest of these plastic tools. It's like a little hand and with fingers. Excuse me. And you just go along it. And it gives you the bark. Excuse me. Might be that eating that piece of chocolate. So these are wonderful. I just really like these. And they're just so cheap. And so Temu, look for them. So I shaped it because like driftwood or wood wouldn't just be straight across necessarily. And then I did put some little feet. I just, made some little snakes and glued those on. Looks like I got a piece of the greenery. Just put those there so that they would stick out from the body. And then I'm going to paint them different colors, of course. And so then I'll glue it. You'd have to paint around the feet and everything. So this one didn't have feet, so I guess feet aren't terribly important. This is just glued onto the bone, and do it so that the bone helps balance, but work at your tail, helping to balance, position your tail within the wire so that it helps to balance. And so I did find that I made the body, made the head, and then I attached wings onto it and a tail. And of course, like I said, you're wetting your tool and you're rolling everything. Now it's going to be on the wires, so they're going to be sitting next to each other, but you roll up and down to blend, to blend it. But then I went and thought, I wonder if doing it in 3 pieces would be, okay to do it in 1 piece. So this one, I used the point and actually cut in the design and rolled up, roll. I can't say that enough, because that's what you're doing. You're just rolling. Wet it. I stick it in water and then just roll. Stick it in water and roll out from the round ball that's the center. And when you start to get it, that you can put the wire should go in when it's still a round ball, because it's at an angle. If it was straight, then you could stick it in later, but because it's at an angle, you got to get the neck up. So the tail comes out too to balance. And then I just lastly glued little feet on. But I did kind of roll those in too. But it worked doing it with 1 piece. It didn't have to be 3 pieces. It's just how good you are with your tip carving out your design. So you just try it both ways and see which works best for you. Okay, so we've got basic pumpkins. You want tall pumpkins. You curl I got a little bitty curl there on the little stem. So curl that out so that you can spiral it and give it some character. So these are just balls that, this one's stretched out and you're just putting lines in them. Just the basic. And then when you're painting them, put a little brown in your orange so that it's not just too bright an orange. Just bring it down a little bit. And see, this one's got the little bit of a curl going on. And that just makes it a little more interesting. And the bottom, make sure you've got enough of a base so they sit straight. And this is that Dawson. It just feels different than the paper clay. It feels real dense. Okay, so I wanted to say that, I'm noticing that I'm entering like the third level of miniatures. It's like the first level is everything is so cute and you're collecting and you're more doing your rooms and your walls and your bedding and everything. And the second level is kind of where you start thinking, I can make a piece of furniture, or I can take a piece of furniture and remake it, or I can fold up material and make a shirt, or I can, make some things for the wall, some pictures. And so to me, that's like about the second level. Well, the third level is where you see artisan work. And when I say artisan, those are the people that are gifted. They just God made them that way. They're gifted at art and carving and, clay or whatever. And so you look for those people. If you're not one of those that's gifted at it, look for something that catches your attention. And I was looking at a video that was on YouTube, and there was a face on the potion bottle. And it kind of looked like this, but it was much better. Mine's kind of rough, but I haven't taken the file to it yet. It's still just drying from last night. But this actually would be better served as a pumpkin, which I may turn this into a pumpkin instead of a bottle because it's too big for a bottle. And it would be better a pumpkin. So I started thinking, why didn't I think about making faces? Well, that's what I'm saying about the third level of miniature making, is to broaden your vision into, okay, I've made a good pumpkin. I've made a good pumpkin here. Now let's make a pumpkin face on the pumpkin. Let's make it 3D, not just cut in, but actually sculpted. And so the way I was thinking about it is take someone else's design or draw up your own design, or you can I just used the tool and that's how they turned out. But this first design is what gave me the idea. But you can use a mirror with your own face and see, put your face in the same shape of what you're trying to get, and you'll see how the muscles move around in your face. And then you know what angle to work with, to push up. And if you don't want to use a mirror, at least feel your face. Put your face in the shape of the mouth that you're trying to create, or you have upward eyes, you have downward eyes, you have eyebrows, and if one eyebrow goes up, what else happens with the rest of your face? So if you try to recreate it in your own face, feel where your muscles bulge out, or your cheek does, or whatever. So it's just a hint. So this one turned out good, and I made her have a cleft chin. Doesn't she look like she's kind of snoozing? So I really like this bottle. Okay, speaking of the bottles, this is basic what I'm starting with. And if you want to take one of your tools and just stick it in there, then that gives you something to hold on to. Don't stick it all the way down. And I started out big. This is really kind of big, but I've cut away. But this one's really kind of big. But I'm starting out with this tube up here and rounded at the bottom. And the reason is I'm pushing everything up. You've got to put your tool into water to get, and see, paper clay will dry. This has just been sitting out 5 minutes and it's already getting that layer of dryness. Okay, but let me just show you. Okay, I feel like I'm on camera that I'm not going to get it right. This is when I can't glue something. But see, you can add clay, or you can just manipulate the clay. So I've started with an eyebrow. Now I'm trying to get an eye put into there. And maybe I need some under eye bag. And I'm going to reshape the eyebrow. Maybe it needs to be up, maybe it needs to be down. Okay, so let's get a second eye going. Always here. Yeah, I've got this water in here. So see, have one of these right next to you. And that way you constantly, okay, we need a nose. We need to leave some clay, in the nose area to work Let's see what kind of nose we get. And you just get the general gist of the first roll, that everything's in place, and then, okay, water, and then keep rolling up and roll down, but roll up. Give yourself enough clay. Gosh, this is already dry. But that DOS, it seems like that DOS stays wetter. It doesn't get this this dry this fast. But it's definitely more dense. I did see a paper clay that Creative Mom, I think, made it. She made the ingredients for the paper clay. Okay, so now I'm trying to get enough clay here for an eye. Now, if you don't like that you've got a hollow or something, you can always put some, some damp clay into it. Okay, so once you get this starting to get all your pieces, then you're shaping your expression. And that's where I say spend time on your expression. You might want an arched eyebrow. You might want a down eyebrow, like an owl. You might want an eye that goes up like a lady's, or down like a sad kind of downward eye, or sleeping looking eye. And so you just work at the shape. Now, I don't think this is a fast process. I'm not a sculptor. Everything I do is just trial and error. So, I could be doing this a little faster, but the clay is not, it's not, smoothly moving. It's already getting its skim hardness on it. So, let's see. So the nose needs to come up, but, use glasses, whatever you need. These that I've made are a little bit bigger than miniatures, 1/12, but they're going into a haunted house that's like a curiosity shelf. And so I don't really have a, wow, this looks like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really have a scale that per se that, I just want you to be able to see them. That's the thing when those curiosity cabinets, it's more important that you see. Okay, so see how it's starting to, see when it breaks. When you go to push it, it shouldn't break loose. It should just flow upward. But as it dries, then it breaks. And so now you need some cheek up in there. Maybe get a... And also, I don't want to get my hands covered in clay, because that's what always happens with the paper clay. But let me show you this one. I was just making it to show you, and then it started getting this hard film. But, so everything I just pushed up the same way, and then worked it, so you can see where it's cracked a little bit. And you can fill in the cracks, but the cracks also look kind of good, It's kind of old looking. So this one, now, this one, see, his cheek is upward, where his smile is upward. So I was feeling my face. If I turn my face sideways, the smile sideways, then I'd have the cheek fuller on that side. And so you can change the eyebrows however you want. The nose is wider on this one. And he's kind of got a double chin look. Kind of a man in the moon, maybe? I don't know. But, so she's got the cleft chin, kind of fat jowls. And you can take away, I kind of pinched things towards the back and then took out a section that was too thick and cut a piece off the bottom to thin it out from what I started with. And this guy, I tried to make him look kind of goofy. So he has one eyebrow up and kind of ears, Dumbo ears. Kind of making him look goofy. And if you want to use the stick, it kind of helps you from pressing your piece with your fingers while you're holding it. This one, I think it still kind of needs work. It's tall and thin, but it doesn't really have the character I was working on. So I think I might add something to that one. And then this one turned out, this was just one of those easy ones. It turned out really, really easy. And see, that's got the arched eyebrow higher, the nose is bigger, and it's got these lines. So, you know, just all you're doing is rolling this out to get yourself those lines, or you can make a snake and put them onto the piece if that's easier for you. And then the mouth, you know, you'll play with the mouth last and kind of get the mouth just the right direction that goes with the, I think the eyes first, and then the middle section, and then I work with and play with the mouth last. And I left these light colored so you could see them better than when they're dark, you know, because, you know, the houses and the curiosity boxes are all dark. So by the time you put all this in there, you won't see it real well. So now this could be cut off right here and made shorter, which is probably what I'll do. Doesn't need to be that tall. And also, I had this on the stick, and so I hadn't taken it off the stick to make sure that it sat straight up and down. So it's falling backwards. So it needs to sit and dry, you know, so that it won't fall backwards. So this was the one I made with the DOS clay. I wanted him to be a pirate tree. This is kind of out by the house, and so you see the face that you definitely want a face in your tree. And so I did his tree stump to kind of mimic a pirate's hat. See, it's kind of three-sided and then rippled a little bit to be broken. And then I used this wonderful hand tool to get the texture in it. So that's fun. Gotta have a face in your tree. They're talking tree. And then bring his roots out and stick some greenery up in there. Might have, I did brown, and then I came back in and did some black streaks, dry brushy kind of streaks. Give him some different shape, maybe a knot hole if it works out. Give him a knot hole. But you're kind of trying to not make the face so obvious. It's there, but it's not like a totem pole. It's kind of blended into the trunk. So, and then quickly, if you want to make trees, they always have these, but they're kind of sparkly. And I don't know if I like the sparkly. If you don't like the sparkly and you can't, you know, just paint over it. I'm not sure I really like the sparkle. But it's, you know, it does glisten with your lights. But these are those, I got this at Michael's, I think, or this one was Dollar Tree. The first one was Michael's, and it had more glitzy sparkle stuff. And then I found this later, which was cheaper. It was, I think, $1.25 for one of these. This is bent because it's too big, but nice for making the tree. And so you can see the DOS clay is very white and the paper clay is a little beige. So now the problem is, see how this is scuffed up? Once you paint everything and do paint underneath, you have to seal it. Take it outside and do a spray sealer on it, unless you want to put a Mod Podge on it, because it'll help keep it from doing this, breaking back and showing your white clay when you're using air dry clay, because it will. This got hit. And so I think I sprayed this, but it looks like it needs to be painted again and really coated really well. Now it looks like I did put some some adhesive of sorts and threw some glitter onto it to match the glittery, tree limbs. But it's up to you whether you like the glitter or you don't like the glitter. And you can get rid of, you can paint over it if you don't like it. But you can add glitter to your, after you do your lines. And this one had some kind of hump or something. There was a piece that came out, or I cut it or something. And so I just made a knot hole out of that. And then, of course, you can make a piece on the ground, too, to look like it fell off and aged. So that's what I've got going here right now. And I hope you'll try these little faces. I just think they're like a step above just a plain bottle. And even we all have made the fairy bottles. They're glass. So this is even a step above that. So I hope you'll try it. I mean, it's just clay. You can always put it in water and wad it up and start over, or put it in, if you don't like it. And make yourself some little rats or some mice. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you the grave markers that I made out of polymer clay as well in another video, and those are like really decorative. And so I'll show those to you. And I've got a man-eating plant and some ghosts and just another full video. So please come back. Please subscribe. I'm almost there. So thanks for viewing. Bye.